Hello everyone, it's Robin here and welcome. I'm so happy to see you all today. So it's 2025 and we've got all of our new reading goals in mind and our new reading journals and all the good things. But before we get too far into the new, I want to revisit 2024, and that is with my reading journal here. Today we're going to do a flip through of my reading journal to see how 2024 went, and we're going to see what my favorite books for 2024 were. Now I'm doing this in collaboration with my friend Tracie over at Midwest Craft Chat. We've been doing these reading collabs for over a year now, and I've been having a great time with that. It's always good to have a friend, right? To have a friend do all the fun things with you. So she's going to be doing the similar thing with her reading journal. She's going to be flipping through so we can see how 2024 went. I'm excited to see all of that. I'll put a link to her video down below so that you can check it out too. And to note, we're going to continue this collaboration through 2025. So we have another great year of reading ahead of us. So I'm excited to cap up 2024. So let's flip the camera down and just get started. So 2024 was such a fun reading year, and I really enjoyed my reading journal. Now, this is journal I created out of a Happy Planner notebook, which is something I love to do because I really love the disc system. I like to move things around, but also just taking advantage of some of the different dividers and pages that you can get in these notebooks. This says, be your own kind of happy. I did the same for this year, which we'll get into that later. But here today, we're going to flip through this, see how 2024 went, and then when we're done, I'm going to go back and share with you 6 of my favorite books from 2024. So right off the bat, we open it and we see how beautiful and soft this is. I was having a real thing with all of this woodland charm, cottagecore charm, homey charm. I just loved it last year. And we saw it in my main planner, and then we also saw it here in my reading journal. One reason, again, that I love using the Happy Notes is it comes with 3 dividers and they're double-sided. So that makes it easy, and I just labeled them. I have 3 sections in my reading journal. This is the monthly section, we have a tracker section, and we have a review section. So how I'm going to flip through this is I'm going to go as if we were going through the reading journal and how we do it. And we're going to start at the back at the reviews because we can't really do anything else till we know what books we read. So I'm just going to flip to this 3rd section right here. You can see, look at this planner, this divider. It's really cute. Keep growing and keep going. Again, I just loved all of these soft, homey, cozy designs. Okay. Right off the bat, you can see this is how I was setting up my review pages. And how I did it is I created photos of book covers. They're not really photos. I printed them on sticker paper, but you can also do them on regular paper. But I'm a visual person, and I really love to see these book covers. They're easy to get on the computer. You can just do a Google search for them. I got a lot of these from going on Amazon. You can also get them from Goodreads, and you just print them out on paper in whatever sizes you want, and then you can either tape them down, or I use sticker paper because I have sticker paper here. I just sticker them down, and I have a lot of fun with that. Okay, so for my reviews, this is how I decided to lay it out last year. I put the title, the author. These are some of the main characters. I really wanted to include information that when I went back to look at this, I could tell, yes, I remember that. I remember these things, and I remember why I liked it. I wrote 3 things about each book, and then I included some information here that was important to me. What was my star rating, how many pages there were, what genre was it, and then how I read the book. So these are stickers too. These are icon stickers, and this is in book form, and this is the, well, I have a Kindle, so it's an e-reader, but my Kindle. And I read 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. It was my first book of 2024, which, again, that was fabulous. I loved this read, and I kind of tandem read it between my Kindle and my book. And I was doing this because when in bed at night, I could read my Kindle a lot easier than a book because you don't have to have all the lights on, right? So that's why we were reading that in tandem. I have a second book down here that I read, so I sectioned these off with some skinny washi, and I kind of matched the washi to the book, and I had a lot of fun doing that. So we're going to leaf through this like this, so you can see how it ended up looking. Every book had its own little kind of section, and I like going through here because I love seeing what were the characters' names, because sometimes that's the thing I forget when I'm looking back on a book. I remember the story, I remember I loved it, and I'm like, wait, what was that character's name? So I'm glad I wrote those down here. But I had quite a wide variety of books that I was reading. I even had some memoirs here. That Barbara book. Wow, that was a long one. Oh, I did that in audio. It was 48 hours. It took me like 2 months. But, you know, that's all good. That's okay. And then I would read like a short book, like The Night Before Christmas. Actually, this one I did in audio too. I thought it was beautiful, but this one was read by Jeff Bridges, and he was amazing. He is Santa Claus, as far as I'm concerned, because the voice was amazing. So I had some nonfiction. This was a collection of short stories. I went out of my comfort zone a little bit. I read a science fiction. So I just had a lot of fun reading. I even put books in like a cookbook, because this was the Hocus Pocus cookbook. I read Hocus Pocus, and I had this cookbook that I picked up, and I loved this cookbook. I leafed through every recipe, read all the little blurbs, and we even made some of the things, which was really fun. We made this black magic beef stew. Yeah, that was really good. So much fun, so much fun. So it's fun to look around here. And then these were the last books. And again, I read The Night Before Christmas. So I put this in here again because I had this in book form. I picked it up, and I read that to Aiden and Remy on Christmas Eve, and that was really fun. And so a lot of things in why I love reading so much may not always have to do with the story, although that's a huge part, but just the experience of reading. And that's how we'll come across some of these star ratings. But that was memorable. I read that to them, and who knows, that could become a tradition. So these are all the books that I read. I think that was the last, but yep, because that was the last book. So once I would read a book and I get all this down, then I can go into this middle section, and this is the trackers. And this is where we get all the numbers. And these are the trackers I chose to do last year. So look at this divider. I love all these mushrooms. You are exactly where you need to be. See, and I liked that with my trackers because I'm not reading like a ton of books, although I think I read a lot of books. For me, I did. Well, that was my goal. My goal was my first page. I have 5 goals here, and read 24 books. That is what I put in my Goodreads, because I thought reading 2 books a month was attainable for me. And I did reach that. I actually read 25, but we'll get to that. But you saw the last one was The Night Before Christmas. So, but that's okay. It counts. Read my TBR 5. There's a page in here with 5 books that I was saying I have to read these books. Explore genres. So we'll see if I did that. Read the seasons. I'm a seasonal reader. I love reading books within the season that they're in. It just gives me all those vibes going on. And then have a fun reading year. So I definitely did that. So let's see if we follow along, how we did on these goals. My first page here was my Goodreads goal. I set up boxes and I color coded them by the type of, how I read the book, whether it was in book form, audio form, or ebook form. That way at a glance, I can kind of look at it. Some of them you'll see are half and half, because I had maybe, such as this, I had the book and I also did audio. So I was kind of reading in tandem. I'm playing around with audio a little bit. Again, I'm a very visual person. I get distracted easily in audio. I have a hard time following along unless I have a real engaging narrator. I found some narrators that I like. Julie Whelan is really good. But one way I like audiobooks is memoirs, and it's read by the person who wrote the memoir. So that's pretty engaging too. So I'm practicing. I'm trying with the audio. But I really do like reading the book form much better, or even as in an e-reader. But that's my Goodread goal, and I did 25 books. So I did match my goal, and there we have it. So this page is great because it was my monthly stats page. So every month I would write down the books that I read and how many pages I turned. And for audiobooks, I translated that into the number of pages because I didn't want to get caught up in hours listened and pages. That was just too much for me. So all the books are in here in terms of the pages. And I created this year-end stats. I read 25 books and I read 7,682 pages. So that was pretty fun. And I like how this page is kind of just right with this. It just gives you a glance at what you did. This is one of my favorite pages. This is my books read. This is my bookshelf. And I just made little images of the books and put them all together. So at a glance, I could see all the books that I read. And I used this page when I selected my 6 favorite books for this year. I was going to do 5, but I had to do 6 because it just couldn't not do 6. So this is a fun page. I really love looking back on this. I make all my books the same height. And then you can see this book is really wide. I allow the book image to go the width that it is because all books are different sizes. But I needed something that was consistent, so I make them all the same height. I think these are about 1.5 inches tall, roughly. But I really like this page. It's really fun to look at. My next page, this has been one of my favorite pages for getting information. And this is my reading genres page. I put 5 and 5. So I have 10 different genres here that I thought maybe I would be reading. And then I put like header stickers here to act as books. And I wrote the books in kind of in the genre as I read them. And at a glance, I can see I read mostly romance. Obviously, that was that wasn't a surprise to me. I knew that was going to happen. I also read a lot of historical fiction, which I absolutely love historical fiction. So that wasn't too big of a surprise. My surprise was my magical realism. I thought I was going to be reading more. But if you look at this, under my cozy mysteries, 2 of these books actually are also magical realism. So accidental magic and experimental magic go up here too. So this could be higher, but I put them down here because they were also mysteries. You know, some books, they just don't fall in one category. So sometimes I have an issue with trying to figure out what genre do I put this in. So this is how I chose to do this. But at a glance, I can see, you know, all the types of books I was reading. I read 1 thriller, and I did move out of my comfort zone, and I read 1 fantasy. I'm not a huge fantasy reader, but some of the magical realism, I guess, could be a little fantasy, but this is more, you know, fantasy. This was actually more science fiction, but I didn't have that here, so I put it there. But this was my reading genres page, which I love. Okay, this is my TBR 5. I made this at the beginning of the year. I picked 5 books off my shelves that I said, I just seriously need to read these this year. One was Lessons in Chemistry, The Wishing Game, The Nightingale, Pride and Prejudice, and The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. So I read 3 of these books last year. Kristen Hanna is one of my favorite authors, and I've been wanting to read The Nightingale for quite some time. I read her book that came out last year, The Women, and sometimes her books, I just need to let them sit for a while before I go into another one because they're fairly heavy. And I didn't go into this one, and then the timing just seemed wrong. Again, I'm a seasonal reader. This just feels like a very wintry read to me, but when I got into winter, I was all about Christmas and jolly vibes and short books and that type of thing. So I did not pick it up, but I am reading this right now, so I'm okay with this. I do not know why I didn't read The Wishing Game, because I really wanted to. Maybe I'll move that on my TBR for this year for sure. But that's what that page is about. And we move into, this is one of the last pages I made for this. This was really fun. Tracie from Midwest Craft Chat and I created Books with Winter Vibes. We did a winter bucket list of books, and these are all the books that gave me the winter vibes. I have a lot of Christmassy books over here that move into kind of New Year's-y, wintry. I have The Nightingale here because I kind of knew that wasn't going to happen, and into a love book that's like Valentine's Day. So this will move into my new reading journal. And then, oh, last but certainly not least was my DNF graveyard. Look at all the ghosties, so much fun. I wrote, it's not you, it's me. Because sometimes when you DNF a book, it has nothing to do with how great the book is, but maybe you're just not in the mood. Maybe it's just not the type of book for you. So that's what that was all about. Okay, so that's the end of that. We are going to flip all the way to the front now and look at this monthly section, because this is where I capped off all the books I read each month. This is like my favorite section in this book because it really does show everything in a nutshell. And I loved these Dutch doors that I made. Oh my gosh, I love them so much. So we start off my bookish year, 2024. We start off with my rating system. These were my guidelines I put in for my 5-star, 4-star, 3-star, 2-star, and 1-star. And you know, why I was rating things the way I was rating. I tend to rate things on the high side. And again, a lot has to do with experience, but I also tend to pick a lot of books that I knew I was going to really enjoy. I was only reading a handful of books, you know, during the year at a time. Like I read, what, 25 books, so maybe 2-ish a month. So I was really picking books that I thought for sure that I was going to love. And, you know, it seems to work out. It seemed to work out pretty good. So in January, I read 3 books. I put in, again, more book covers. I'm a visual person. I love making these book covers. The larger one notes my favorite of the month. So that's how that worked out. I would put a quote and then how many books I read and how many pages I turned. And the stickers I used in these were all the kits that I made last year, 2024, for the monthly moments. So I have these on each page. That was January. We have February here. I read 3 books. March I read 1 book, but I did read Pride and Prejudice. Took me a little while. It was a little more complicated to read. It's like a little harder, you know, a little literary. How's that? But I did enjoy that book, and I'm glad I finally read it. April, I did pretty well. Oh, this is where I have Barbara. So I think what I must have been doing too is I was probably started Barbara in March and finished it in April. That makes a lot of sense. And I read Bridgerton, the first book. I have a hard time reading books once I've seen a show or a movie. So there was that little play going on in it because I really love the show Bridgerton. But this was probably my biggest reading month right here. May, I went back down to 1 book. I was probably recouping from April. And June, I didn't read any books. So I don't know what was going on in June. I was just, you know, probably having my best summer life going on, I guess. I don't know. July, I read 3 books. And one of them was a Christmas book. Oh, I did Christmas in July. I think that was what was happening. I was starting to get Christmas in my mind. August, I have 1 book here that I read. I have 3 going on in September. Oh, I loved that book, The Golden Spoon. Here's my October books. They're all very witchy, hocus pocus, the XX. This is where I put my cookbook because I count them. If I look through all the pages and read through all the recipes and look at everything, yes, I count it. That's fine. November, I read Holiday Hideaway. And in December, I read 2 books, The Santa Suit and The Night Before Christmas. And that leaves us to this last page, which was what I want to do is share with you what my favorite books were this year. I have some book covers that I made here, and I have a sticker book here from Happy Planner. And I'm going to go to these letters here because these are the same letters I put up here. I think I have, let me get the other one. Yeah, here we go. I think we have enough in here. This is a new one. I love this book so much. The spring book from Happy Planner. I picked up another one when it was on sale. There, I think I have all the letters here. So we're going to write favorite across, and I'm going to kind of put these down. And these are my favorite books. So I made these book covers. They're roughly 2-ish inches tall. And you can kind of see them, just throwing them all down so you can see. But these were my favorites of the year. So let's see. I mean, I'm going to do maybe something like this. Okay, so let's write favorites first. Let's see. Let's start it in the middle. This O is pretty big. Okay, we're going to start this right here. And I'm using the dot grid to line it up. So let's get the letters that go around it. Okay, there we have it. Oh my gosh, that looks really cute. Let's move that aside. And let's kind of pull these off. And I'll tell you a little why I like them. Let's actually go with this one first so that we can line things up. So what I want to do, I want my Dutch door to cover this, so I don't want to go higher than this line here, but I think we're fine. I'm going to put this one kind of right in the middle. And this is The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. And this is by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I absolutely love this book. It is set from the 50s to the 80s, and it's glam Hollywood, and it's about Evelyn Hugo and Monique, who is interviewing her, and you learn all about her life, and I absolutely loved that book. It was a really fun read. It was a great book to start the year off, and yeah, that one stayed with me a while. I was just, I couldn't put it down. Okay, my next book is a romance, and it's Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. Now, I read 2 Abby Jimenez books this year, and I liked both of them. The other was Just for the Summer, but I picked this one because I think I liked it better. I liked it a lot better. And this one follows Brianna and Jacob, and I think this is part of the Part of Your World series. Like, they're characters that were in that other book, and then this one's about them, and they're doctors, and it's a whole love-hate relationship situation, and they kind of get together, and there's miscommunication. It's just all the things, and I loved it. What I love about Abby Jimenez is that she writes very real dialogue, and I found this book to be hilarious. It just, the dialogue was fun. I love the just the quips and the wit and the sarcasm, and it's just, I loved it. I loved this book a lot. And so it's kind of, they were doctors, and he kind of took over the position she was supposed to have, and then she was mad at him, and then there was something about having to do some fake dating, and then there's a kidney transplant needing to happen. It's just a whole thing. And I really loved this book. It was one of my, I think that is my favorite, probably Abby Jimenez book, even moreover than Part of Your World, which I loved last year too. Okay, so my next book here is my Kristen Hanna book. She writes historical fiction, and she had a book that came out in 2024 called The Women, and it is about the Vietnam War and the women who went over to be a part of the war. And this follows Frankie, who her whole family was kind of military, and took stock in, this was like in the 60s, and took stock in the men in the military, including her dad. Her relationship with her dad is just a thing, and took stock about the men. But she went over into the war as a woman and to be a nurse, and she was in war zones as well, and it follows how the women were in the war, and also how they were treated when they came back from the war, and how they were viewed in the war. And I just loved it. I thought it spoke very clearly of the times in the 60s and how that all was. And like, when the women came back, they weren't granted the same type of help that the men were that were in that Vietnam War, because they were women. So it's a real big story about that, and I really loved that book. Kristen Hanna is one of my favorite authors. I will read all her books eventually. Again, I'm reading The Nightingale right now, and that's Kristen Hanna. I absolutely love it. Okay, let's go down to the next row and figure these out. I'm going to put this one in the middle. This one is The Golden Spoon, and it's by Jessa Maxwell. I'm trying to line this up just a touch. There we go. And it's a mystery. And why I loved this book so much is that it very much follows the Great British Baking Show in a very, fictional way. And that just made it fun for me. I love the Great British Baking Show. They have the tent outside of the big mansion in the big park, and that's what this book had. And it just was a lot of fun. And, well, it's a lot of fun. There was a murder, but it was like a mystery. And baking. How's that? Baking and mystery and murder. Anyway, I enjoyed that book a lot. Now, I had a lot of fun reading it. Was it the best written thing I ever read? I don't know. Probably not, but I gave it 5 stars because I had a great time with it. See, that's how it goes with me. You just kind of got to go with it, right? Okay, let's look at this next book, which is Hester by Lori Lico Albanese. And I'll tell you, I loved this book too. Well, of course I did, because it's in my favorites, right? So that's a given. So let's kind of put this down here. So Hester is roughly a story like The Scarlet Letter. And it's kind of done back in the 1800s, and then later, and in the witch kind of area. And it follows Isabel and then Nathaniel. And Isabel is a descendant from a witch, and Nathaniel is a descendant from a witch judge. And they kind of come together and meet in Salem. And she has a harsh, rough life. There's a little bit of magic going on in here with some needles and needlepoint. And she has to hide all that because everybody will point at her and make her a witch, thus like the Scarlet Letter situation. But I really enjoyed this book. Was interesting. And did I list it as historical fiction? Because I kind of had that quality to it. Or I probably put it, I don't know where I put it. Where did I put it? Hester, historical fiction. Because it definitely had that quality to it. And I think that's why I loved it so much. But that was a great, great read. Okay, let's do our last one. This one's a fun one. So this one is called Accidental Magic, and the reason it's one of my favorites is because it's opening me up to reading a cozy mystery series that is long and has a lot of the same characters in it. So this is by Iris Beaglehole, and it follows Rosemary and Athena Thorne, who inherit the Thorne mansion from her granny who just passed away. And she goes to this town. This mansion is magical. The town is magical. Everybody talks about magic like it's, you know, an everyday occurrence. And I love it. It's like a quirky small town. It's very Gilmore Girl vibes. It's quick. It's kind of funny. The relationship is really funny. The mom is, Rosemary is very scatterbrain, and Athena is more like, no, do it like this. But there's also magic involved and magical people and mysteries that happen. So again, best book that ever written? No, but I loved it because it's opening me up. There's like, I don't know how many books there are. There's like 7 or 8 books, and they all follow the season. So I kind of have to get myself caught up to this season. My goal maybe is to try to get caught up to when the fall stuff happens in the fall. Then I'm reading that in the fall. So this is my favorites for the year. I would love to hear about your favorites. Let me know down in the comments below. And this is my reading journal. I'm really excited about this. I have a new reading journal that we will be putting together. I just started it here. I just put it together like this. But I also just got this new Harry Potter planner. And I think we're going to switch out the covers and some other stuff. Because look at that. I love it. And I still need to do some pages for that. So my plan is later this month, I'm going to have a week of reading journal pages videos. How's that? That'll be a lot of fun. But right now, let's go back to this. This was my reading journal. And Tracie over at Midwest Craft Chat, she's sharing her reading journal today too. So I will put a link down below so you can go check hers out. And I hope to see you there. Thank you all so much for joining me. I hope you have a magical day, and I will see you in my next video. Happy reading. Bye.